and welcome to today's Joint National Park Service United States Navy National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day ceremony. I am Lieutenant Commander Mike Genta, Commander of the Honolulu Military Entrance Processing Station. I'm also the grandson of Commander John Lewis Genta, who, as an ensign, was a PBY Catalina pilot assigned to VP-11 at KANEOHE Bay on this day 79 years ago. It is truly the honor of my career to serve as today's Master of Ceremonies on this historic 79th anniversary. This year's theme is Above and Beyond the Call. Today we honor the sacrifice of the service members and civilians who fought the opening battle of America's entry into World War II, setting the example of perseverance and paving the way for service above and beyond the call to serve. The official party for today's ceremony includes Mr. Scott Birch, Superintendent, Pearl Harbor National Memorial, National Park Service. Navy Region Hawaii and Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific, arriving. United States Pacific Fleet arriving. Side boys, post. It is customary on December 7th that we observe a moment of silence at 7:55 to commemorate the beginning of the attacks on Oahu. At 7:55, you will hear the sound of the USS Arizona ship's bell rung by Park Ranger Daniel Brown to mark the start of our moment of silence. Completing the moment of silence will be F-22 Raptors from the 199th and 19th Fighter Squadrons, known as the Hawaiian Raptors, executing a missing man flyover formation just beyond the USS Arizona Memorial and over Ford Island, in honor of those who lost their lives in the defense of their country 79 years ago today. The missing man formation was first used by the United States military in 1938. While aircraft have evolved and modernized since then, the concept of paying tribute to the fallen with this aerial salute is still used at funerals and memorials today. You may see one aircraft pull away from the formation and fly high into the clouds to honor the lives lost on December 7th. This tactic of a single aircraft pulling away from the group was not part of the original missing man formation, but has come to be a routine element since the end of World War II. It represents a lost comrade departing while humanity and the mission at hand continue. The gap in the formation symbolizes our fallen comrades and demonstrates to all that we shall always remember their sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please bow your heads as we observe a moment of silence to honor the events that occurred at this moment 79 years ago today. We thank the 199th and 19th Fighter Squadrons for participating in today's ceremony. Please remain standing for morning colors and the performance of our national anthem and state song by the U.S. Pacific Fleet Band. Bugler, sound attention. Parade the colors.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Hawaii pono'i nanai komo'i kalani ali'i kea li'i makualani e kamehameha na kawae pale meka ihe makualani e kamehameha na kawae pale meka ihe.
Retire the colors. At this time, we invite Admiral Aquilino, Superintendent Birch, and Admiral Chadwick to the center of the contemplation circle. It is customary for ships passing the USS Arizona Memorial to pay their respects by rendering honors. Approaching, you will see the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer USS Michael Murphy, commanded by Commander Scott Maloney, a native of Boston, Massachusetts. Today, in addition to rendering honors to the USS Arizona crew still entombed in their watery grave, Michael Murphy will also render honors to the Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans who are watching online with us today. The veterans who couldn't be with us today represent the greatest generation of all American history. No one before them and no one since has been asked to answer the call to serve and sacrifice in the way that they were between the years of 1941 and 1945. The official party will return the salute on behalf of the greatest generation to the USS Michael Murphy as she passes close aboard.
Hand, salute. Ready, two.
Carry on. Please be seated. We'd like to thank the USS Michael Murphy, the Hawaii Air National Guard, and the United States Air Force for participating in today's ceremony. In the Hawaiian culture, the religious leader or spiritual advisor is known as a kahu. Today, we are pleased to have for our invocation a Hawaiian blessing offered by Kahu KANEOHE.
He puli kako, shall we pray? Ke akua kamakua mauloa o Kalani, O eternal Father in heaven, behold Hawaii, behold this very sacred day in which we all gather. Behold the memory that we must always perpetuate within ourselves, physically and spiritually forever. Never forget December 7th. Behold those who are in the spiritual world observing this, that we do it well on their behalf, for their honoring and their praise must always continue and never to be forgotten. Heavenly Father, although these are difficult times for us in this new pandemic that has come across the world, these gentlemen who have sacrificed their lives for December 7th and have certainly given all that they will, I would like to ask that all of the members of their families, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren also be blessed by this special event, and they also never to be forgotten, because they have sacrificed just as much as those who have passed away. Allow us now to honor them and praise them forever and eternally grateful. So it is, December 7th, 79 years ago. We must never, ever forget. Humbly I say these things in thy very precious name. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Kahu. Today's event allows us, the generation of the 21st century, to recognize, honor, and give thanks to the generation of military veterans and civilians who served during World War II. Their lives and their legacy will never be forgotten. Each year during this annual ceremony, dozens of veterans come from all around our great nation to commemorate Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day and to honor us with their presence and their stories. Unfortunately, this year we will not have the veterans with us on site, but they are not forgotten. With that in mind, at this time, we would like to present a special veterans video to honor all the veterans who could not make it to today's ceremony, but who still hold a special place in our hearts and in our thoughts.
Aloha, I am Lou Contra, a World War II veteran and Pearl Harbor survivor. thank you for inviting me to participate from California. Every year, we rightfully honor the heroes who lost their lives on December the 7th, 1941. Over the course of 2 hours, more than 2,400 servicemen and civilians were killed. Almost half of them went down with the USS Arizona, remained there on this day. I was aboard the USS Arizona that morning. Afterwards, I was sent to places and did things until the end of the war, or 1967, when I retired and discharged. But for thousands of people, the first day of the war was also the last day they saw of it. The loss of those lives showed us what was at stake. At the same time, their courage ignited a spark that rallied Americans all across the country and redefined the meaning of service. Today, I have the distinct honor of introducing and remembering World War II veterans, both past and present. Each of us bears a unique story. Some of us were drafted, many of us volunteered. Some people had to fight for the right to serve and even prove their loyalty. Many were asked to make the same sacrifices, despite unequal treatment, leaving them to fight for victory both abroad and at home. Each of us joined for different reasons: honor, validation, a sense of duty, and venture financial stability. But we all share something in common. December the 7th, 1941 changed our lives, not just for those of us on the USS Arizona or at Pearl Harbor, but throughout the United States. It affected those of us who served, as well as our families, our friends, our neighbors. Millions of Americans were mobilized overnight, traveling thousands of miles to answer the call. Many look on roles they had never dreamed of. Some who had never set foot beyond city limits were now crossing oceans. The war introduced a new realm of possibilities, opportunities that hadn't been available before, but also terrible dangers that in the call of duty, often making the ultimate sacrifice for our fellow Americans. Those efforts not only earned the title of greatest generation, but also set a new standard of service for those who haven't followed. It is a great honor to recognize the men and women who were a part of that history, especially to those who didn't get to see the legacy they would have left behind. Thank you. Aloha, I am Lou Contra, a World War II veteran and Pearl Harbor.
Today, Hello, everyone. I'm honored to represent the National Park Service and welcome you to Contemplation Circle at Pearl Harbor National Memorial for this National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day on the 79th anniversary of a day that changed our world forever. I'd like to offer a special welcome to the invited dignitaries joining us online today. The Honorable David Bernhardt, Secretary of the Interior, the Honorable David Ige, Governor, State of Hawaii, Honorable Brian Schatz, U.S. Senator, Honorable Mazie Hirono, U.S. Senator, the Honorable Tulsi Gabbard, U.S. Congresswoman, the Honorable Ed Case, U.S. Congressman, Admiral Philip Davidson, Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral John Aquilino, Commander, U.S. Pacific Fleet, General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., Commander, Pacific Air Forces, Rear Admiral Rob Chadwick, Commander, Navy Region Hawaii, Captain Eric Spitzer, Commander, Joint Base Pearl Harbor, HICKAM, the Honorable Kirk Caldwell, Mayor, City and County of Honolulu, the Honorable Tatsunobu Isoda, Mayor of Nagota, Japan, members of the Consular Corps, members of the Senior Executive Service, all other flag and general officers, elected and appointed officials, business and community leaders, veterans of World War II, and all following conflicts, Pearl Harbor survivors, and active duty military members and their families, and civilian witnesses. Welcome and thank you for joining us online and in person today. Today, as we recognize and reflect on Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, we're in the midst of yet facing another but very different world-altering event, a global pandemic. I'd like to thank everyone involved in organizing and presenting this year's unique online ceremony. Our key partner and co-host of this ceremony, the U.S. Navy, deserves a big virtual round of applause for all their hard work and dedication. Thank you, Navy. The National Park Service is proud to stand with you today to honor those who gave so much. During the preparation for this ceremony, those working on planning and implementation were dismayed by the restrictions we needed to take to keep everyone as safe as possible. Over the last few months, as we watched the pandemic get worse, we slowly dialed back on the on-site footprint of this ceremony for the sake of safety. We had to make some hard decisions, but we never gave up hope. In that hope, we found new opportunity, an opportunity to reach many more people than we could have by simply focusing on an on-site ceremony. The hope we held months ago grew into an amazing effort through partnerships to bring not just this ceremony, but a whole array of programs and events live streamed and recorded over this past weekend. While there's no replacement for an in-person event, we hope the online content can help people connect to the important stories and history we have to share. These programs were intended to reach a widely diverse audience to make the story of December 7th as relevant as possible, to a world learning again to make sacrifices and to rebuild. The stories we work to preserve and share here at Pearl Harbor National Memorial are as diverse as the nation's citizenry. And in those stories, there is something for everyone, from every walk of life, from every generation. If you haven't had the chance already, please accept our invitation to enjoy those stories at pacifichistoricparks.org. We are pleased to include people from all over the world in those online programs, and I'd particularly like to thank Gregory Slavonic, Undersecretary of the Navy, Yutaka Aoki, Consul General of Japan, the Honorable Kirk Caldwell, Mayor of Honolulu, and other varied, distant, and near speakers who graciously contributed to the programs. The National World War II Museum in New Orleans, all the other national park units who joined us in this effort, the hardworking officers, enlisted and civilian, of U.S. Department of Defense media activity, the numerous organizations and individuals who contributed and produced the content for the programs, and Pacific Historic Parks, particularly for their extensive website work. To all uniformed armed service and veterans out there today, all the World War II survivors, all the Pearl Harbor survivors, and the USS Arizona survivors that are able to join us, and to the families of two special veterans who we recently lost, Mr. Lawrence Roller and Mr. Jules Ramon. Thank you for all you do and all you've done. Thank you for your sacrifices. thank you to our heroes. Now I'm pleased to have the honor to introduce David Bernhardt, 53rd United States Secretary of the Interior. The Secretary and the Department of Interior protect America's vast natural and cultural resources, including national parks, monuments, wildlife refuges, and of course, this historic and sacred site, Pearl Harbor National Memorial. We are grateful to be able to share the Secretary's welcoming message this morning and to share some of his family's story related to December 7th, 1941. Distinguished guests, ceremony invitees, and everyone watching us worldwide, the United States Secretary of the Interior, David Bernhardt.
Today, we recognize 79 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor and on the airfields on Oahu. On this day in 1941, more than 2,300 American servicemen and civilians died and about 1,000 were wounded. One of those lost was my great uncle, Sam E. Bolander. My mother and her cousin shared a few of his letters with me a few years ago. He wrote that he wished he was home for Thanksgiving. He was hopeful to be home for Christmas in 1942. And yet, he would never return to Colorado. The USS Arizona is his final resting place. He was one of the 1,177 sailors and Marines who lost their lives on the Arizona alone. For the sacrifices that they made, the price that they paid, and the war that they won, we call them collectively the greatest generation. They would simply call it their duty. In honor of those who made the ultimate sacrifice, all active duty military, veterans, and Gold Star family members now receive free access to our public lands. I hope that those who have served and their families find refuge in the places that they fought to protect. Thank you, God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Secretary Bernhardt, for contributing that video welcome. Now I'd like to introduce our U.S. Navy co-host for this event. Rear Admiral Chadwick is a surface warfare officer with numerous at-sea and ashore assignments. As Commander, Navy Region Hawaii, he oversees installations on Oahu and Kauai, Joint Base Pearl Harbor HICKAM, and Pacific Missile Range Barking Sands. As Commander, Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific, he provides oversight for surface ships homeported here in Hawaii. Ladies and gentlemen, Rear Admiral Rob Chadwick.
Well, good morning and aloha to all who join us both near and far. First and foremost, I would like to offer my sincere regrets and most heartfelt aloha to the Pearl Harbor survivors and the other World War II veterans who could not join us here today. So to the warrior community of that group that we fondly refer to as the greatest generation, while you are not here physically, I can assure you, you are here in our hearts, in our thoughts, and in our gratitude. Your lives and your examples of honor, courage, and commitment will never be forgotten and will never cease to inspire us. I also want to thank Scott Birch and the leadership and staff here at the National Park Service for their continued cooperation in this important event and for letting us conduct this ceremony on this site. And how appropriate it is that we are conducting this important annual commemoration here in the Contemplation Circle on the beautiful grounds of the Pearl Harbor National Memorial. From this vantage point, much of this historic harbor is laid out before us. We try to imagine what it was like for those standing on the shores of Pearl Harbor 79 years ago, watching destruction rain down on the great U.S. Pacific Fleet. We try to imagine what it was like for the civilian workforce not far from here at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard and civilian workers throughout Oahu. They too felt the weight of the attack and did their part to defend their island and their homes. We also try to imagine what it was like for the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who fought valiantly to protect the aircraft and the airfields at HICKAM, Wheeler, Eva, KANEOHE, and Ford Island, as the air assets here on Oahu were decimated, while most of them were still on the ground. A few hundred feet in front of me is the Remembrance Circle. There you will find the names of every soul lost in the December 7th attack. In that circle, we take the opportunity to remember their sacrifice. And then we come to this circle to contemplate what it means 79 years later. Pearl Harbor holds a unique place in the historic landscape of our country as the location of the bookends of World War II. The two iconic symbols, the battleship Missouri and the Arizona Memorial, both serve as powerful visual reminders of the lessons learned by the veterans who fought throughout the war. And they fought valiantly from December 7th, 1941 to the ultimate victory and the sealing of the peace on the deck of the Missouri in Tokyo Bay in September of 1945. The example of perseverance and courage under fire that led to that ultimate victory was forged here 79 years ago by the heroes who endured the horrors of that attack. Today and every day, we remember the brave men and women who worked tirelessly to defend our freedom and secure the liberties we all hold so dear. They secured the victory by serving in our military and in the civilian workforce, from battlefields in faraway lands to the homeland, from the farms of rural America to the factories, shipyards, and depots of our great industrial nation. But today, our focus comes back here to Pearl Harbor, where we honor the veterans of every military service and the civilians who 79 years ago were caught in the crossfire of what really was the first battle of the war in the Pacific. Again, their courage continues to inspire us. So to all of the Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans who are joining us from around the country and maybe from around the world, I can assure you that all of us who currently wear the uniform understand and embrace the legacy that we've inherited from you. And we strive every day to honor your service with our service. But I will say that all of you are a tough act to follow. Mahalo. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce my boss and the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, Admiral John Aquilino.
Aloha and good morning. Admiral Chadwick, thanks. I think what we see today here is the resolve, despite a pandemic, for us to be able to pay our respects and thank the greatest generation. It also is a reminder to all that nothing will stop us. Thank you very much for your leadership and for the team for setting up this wonderful event. For those who are watching, I'd like to recognize Senators Hirono and Schatz, Congressman Case, Congresswoman Gabbard. Mr. Secretary of the Interior, thank you, sir. I want to thank Scott for the tremendous partnership that we have with the Park Service. These wonderful hallowed grounds look spectacular, Scott, and I know it's your team in combination with ours. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and especially our heroic World War II veterans, survivors from Pearl Harbor, thank you for being here with us, even though it may be virtually. You are always in our hearts and in our minds. Today we pause from our day-to-day lives to honor the greatest generation, those whose service and sacrifice guaranteed our way of life. Pearl Harbor holds a unique place in American history. It is truly my honor to be with you here today on this, the 79th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the 75th anniversary of the end of the war. From December 7th, 1941 through September 2nd, 1945, Americans and our allies fought on the battlefields across the world to provide the freedom we enjoy today. The attack came as a surprise and took a heavy toll. 21 vessels damaged or sunk, 200 aircraft destroyed, nearly 2,500 personnel killed, and more than 1,100 injured. There are many stories of heroism from the sailors here at Pearl Harbor on December 7th. Those sailors fought with honor, courage, and went above and beyond the call, selflessly taking great risks to defend our shores. One of the most famous stories is that of Mess Attendant Third Class Dory Miller. On board a severely damaged USS West Virginia, Dory carried several shipmates who were wounded to safety. After that, he manned a .50 caliber gun, returning fire until he ran out of ammunition. And then, despite the order to abandon ship, Dory Miller continued to pull wounded sailors out of the burning, oil-covered water, and he personally carried them to safety. For his extraordinary courage in battle, Admiral Nimitz personally presented him the Navy Cross. And in his honor this past year, we named CVN-81 our newest nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the USS Doris Miller. That's the legacy of our United States Navy and all of our service partners, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardmen, and National Guardsmen. I see that same dedication and sacrifice in our sailors and civilians today. It is bred out of the legacy of our heroes that came before us. Despite this global pandemic, our sailors continue to train and operate far from our shores every day, guaranteeing a free and open Indo-Pacific. Our civilian warriors here in Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard deliver the ready forces we need to execute our mission. The sacrifices of our sailors from the greatest generation and the sacrifices of our Navy for the past 79 years has delivered peace, stability, and prosperity for all nations around the globe. When honoring those who died, Admiral Nimitz said, "They fought together as brothers in arms. They died together, and now they sleep side by side." To them, we have a solemn obligation. The obligation to ensure that their sacrifice will help to make this a better and safer world in which to live. Today, a grateful nation reflects upon those who went above and beyond. We honor their service, we remember their sacrifice, and we pledge to continue striving for a better and safer world. Thank you to all who are participating today, who are watching, and who continue to serve. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak today, honor our World War II veterans, the greatest generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Aquilino. Today we honor heroes, military and civilian, who experienced the surprise attack on December 7th, 1941. Many lost their lives defending the island, while many others survived to fight in the war that raged throughout the Pacific and around the world. While many history books tend to focus on the Pearl Harbor attack, the entire island of Oahu was shattered on December 7th, 1941, both military and civilian. As I tell their stories, the bell you will hear is from the USS Arizona, one of 2 bells salvaged from the sunken ship. The territory of Hawaii. On that fateful morning, 49 civilians lost their lives. As a base for all the military services, the then territory of Hawaii and its citizens played a major role in one of history's greatest salvage and repair efforts. Hawaii citizens opened their homes and businesses to servicemen stationed on the islands and to those returning from war patrols. Today, the state of Hawaii remains a strategic and welcoming home port for our military, continuing to offer aloha to all. United States Army. The brave members of the United States Army fought diligently to defend their posts on December 7th, 1941, and 16 soldiers gave the ultimate sacrifice. In 1941, they served from Schofield Barracks and Fort Shafter to Fort Kamehameha. Today, the U.S. Army continues to play their critical role serving the nation's interests here on Oahu. United States Marine Corps. Many may not realize until visiting the USS Arizona Memorial that a United States Marine detachment made up part of each battleship's crew. A total of 109 Marines lost their lives that day. 105 perished aboard ships in Pearl Harbor, and 4 were killed in action at the Eva Marine Corps Air Station. The Marine Corps continues to serve our nation on Oahu from Marine Corps Air Base KANEOHE, where the KANEOHE Clippers Memorial honors those service members who gave their lives at that base during the attack. United States Navy. 1,999 sailors lost their lives in the December 7th attacks on Oahu. Many sailors met their final resting place in the waters directly behind me while defending their ships and helping their shipmates escape the burning waters. Many more assisted in rescue and recovery efforts in days and weeks that followed. The USS Arizona Memorial stands as a powerful monument to the service and sacrifice displayed on the day of infamy. Many other memorials to the Navy's service in and around Pearl Harbor tell the story of that day, including memorials to the USS Utah, USS Oklahoma, and the USS Nevada. The United States in Hawaii continues to carry on the legacy that the greatest generation inspired in service to our great nation. United States Air Force. Though not yet a service in 1941, the United States Air Force was formerly referred to as the U.S. Army Air Forces, and here on Oahu as the Hawaiian Air Force. The aircraft and airfields at HICKAM, Bellows, and Wheeler Fields were targets of the attack, where 217 Army Air Force personnel lost their lives as a result. HICKAM Field remains as a frontline hub for American air power in the Pacific. United States Coast Guard. At the time of the attack, the U.S. Coast Guard vessels in Hawaii were all stationed at Honolulu. At 0645, the patrol craft Tiger intercepted a dispatch from USS Ward that claimed destruction of a submarine. Later, Tiger itself came under enemy fire as it participated in the defense of Oahu. The United States Coast Guard continues to serve as a sentinel on guard and on patrol here in Hawaiian waters. The video you are about to see encapsulates wreath presentations that were conducted around the island of Oahu during the week of Veterans Day early last month. The presentations in the video are an expression of our gratitude and a symbol of our unending appreciation for their service and sacrifice 79 years ago. The video is also a recognition of our veterans and current active duty members who continue to serve our country with honor, courage, and commitment. They also represent hope that our future generations may never forget the many sacrifices that make freedom possible. I would now like to invite Scott Birch, Superintendent of the Pearl Harbor National Memorial, and Admiral Aquilino, Commander, U.S. Pacific Fleet, to honor the two wreaths in the contemplation circle in remembrance of the attack on Oahu 79 years ago today.
Hand, salute. Ready, two.
The official party will return to their seats and remain standing for the benediction. A beautifully restored 1972 Pitts S-2 Alpha aircraft will soon fly overhead, flown by pilot Bruce Mays of Vintage Aviation, whose commitment to use these annual aerial tributes as a way to pay tribute to the countless sacrifices made by those who have served in uniform. We thank Commander Bruce Mays, United States Coast Guard retired, and Vintage Aviation for providing today's tribute. Taps will be played from the Contemplation Circle. As we think on the sacrifices of those who gave their lives in defense of our country and echoed forever in our memory from the Remembrance Circle, Lieutenant Marquise Jones, Chaplain, Joint Base Pearl Harbor HICKAM, will now offer the benediction.
Please join me in our benediction. Let us pray. Eternal Father, strong to save, and swift to hear the faintest of prayers, we pause to honor those 20th century Americans who took up the struggle during the attack on Pearl Harbor and World War II to follow, and made the sacrifices to perpetuate the gift our forefathers entrusted to us, a nation conceived in liberty and justice. I'm reminded, O God, of the inscription chiseled on the National World War II Memorial, where President Truman's first message to Congress in 1945 is etched. It states our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid, and it's a service we will never forget. Sacred text proclaims, greater love than no one than this, that they will lay down their life for a friend. And in the face of tyranny, on that December 7th day in 1941, no greater love was shown. Now, Lord, we salute those who went above and beyond the call. Send the Comforter, O God, that we might be reminded that when we are tasked with facing the threats to our great nation, we will stand the watch with the same honor, courage, and commitment of those we are remembering today. Now, Lord, as we depart this solemn place, but never from your sight, continue to grant us victory on land, victory at sea, and victory in the air. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Amen.
Thank you. Stand by for rifle salute.
Order. About face. Board arm. Link ammunition. Load. Ready. Aim. Present. Arm.
Ready. 2. Order. Arm. Right. Face. Forward. Arm. Forward. March.
Side boys, post. Before we conclude the ceremony, we would like to once again recognize all Pearl Harbor survivors, World War II veterans, and those who lived through the attack on December 7th, 1941. On that day, and in the years that followed, you superbly executed your duties at your posts and weathered the storm of war. It is because of you and others like you that we enjoy freedom and liberty in this great country. A grateful nation salutes you today. Hand. Salute. Ready. 2. On behalf of the National Park Service and the United States Navy, thank you for viewing today's special observance of the 79th anniversary of the attack on Oahu and remembering the sacrifices made by those who served here on December 7th, 1941. To those who are watching our ceremony through our online broadcast, we extend a sincere aloha. This ceremony would not have been possible today without the critical assistance of the Pacific Historic Parks and the Defense Media Activity. Please remain standing for the departure of the official party. United States Pacific Fleet departing. Navy Region Hawaii and Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific departing.